Welcome to our channel Flora and Fauna. Here we immerse ourselves in the amazing world of nature, study the diversity of living beings, explore their behavior, and learn interesting facts about plants and animals. We invite you to join us on an exciting journey through the wonders of our planet. Anaconda. And in the wild heart of Venezuela, the Commonwealth of Land and Water gave birth to a unique landscape that gave many people a legendary epithet.
Died.
For centuries, this amazing creature has been surrounded by legends as hazy and intricate as the sunken lands that became its home. With the first scarlet rays of the sun, the primeval world is awakening. Birds by the tens of 1,000 rush to the call of the alliances. Continuous savannas cover a third of Venezuela's territory. Within a few months, heavy rains flooded these plains, creating the second Getty lilac. In terms of space and cleanliness, it is not inferior to its African counterpart. But the dry season has already begun. And the herd of capybaras set off, disappearing into the water. These giant rodents are the largest in the world and can weigh up to 65 kilograms. Soon this fertile plain will be completely burned out. Therefore, the inhabitants of the alliance need to eat. There is enough food for now. But this idyllic picture of peace and abundance will soon be disrupted. In the thickets of water hyacinth, a hungry 4-meter snake, a giant female anaconda, curled up in coils. She had not eaten for several months, and her deprived eyes had already spotted suitable prey. A family of capybaras frolics, unaware of her presence. Weakened by vision, but endowed with a sensitive tongue, the snake searches the air for the smells of its future victim. The coming season does not allow her to endure hunger. It's time for her to find a partner to mate with. And only well-fed snakes successfully produce offspring. Once pregnant, she will not eat for 7 months until the children are born. So she better eat her fill. The anaconda attacks, the birds fly into the air, but for this capybara it's all over. The anaconda kills not with poison, but with its own force, hugging the capybara with deadly rings. The snake squeezes her so tightly that she cannot breathe and her blood circulation stops. Her elastic jaws stretch to incredible lengths and she now begins the lengthy process of eating her prey from the head on. She paid her price for this feast in an honest attempt to free herself. The capybara bit her. Maybe there are snakes in the world longer than an anaconda. But none of them can boast of such a powerful physique. The thickness of her body was 30 centimeters. Before she had time to eat the capybara 6 hours later, the rodent completely disappeared into the belly of the snake, and after lunch its proportions looked terrifying. And by the way, she is quite vulnerable now. But fortunately for her, the only creature brave enough to fight an adult female. The anaconda is now following the trail of another snake. What immediately catches your eye is the giant female hidden in the hyacinth that ate the capybara. The heat of the sun speeds up digestion. The body swells with gases and floats on the surface of the water. We will keep an eye on her and contact her when she returns to her girl form. When the snake wakes up after feeding, this piece of earthly paradise seems filled with idle. But not all of the capybara's companions are as harmless as the snowy egret. Cayman, alligator's infamous South African relative, resides here. For reptiles this size, there is no more tempting food than a giant rodent. The taste of blood in the water attracts a flock of ferocious vultures. Red piranhas gather in hopes of dining on the remains. But today the hungry cayman will disappoint them and will not let a crumb out of his mouth. At the height of the dry season, wild pandemonium begins in places where there are still bodies of water. A herd of capybaras is forced to gather at the crossing of the ponds. Dominant males guard their harems. The aggression begins to change. At the water's edge, the mother briefly but carefully examines the baby. But the birth is not over yet. Another baby on the way. This event attracted the attention of vultures. Here they have to play an unexpected role. These extraordinary midwives free the newborn from the protein-rich placenta and fight for it. Meanwhile, the baby is trying to take his first breath. The children could use some rest. Alliances spare no one. They were noticed by a nearby dominant male. And he is unlikely to be in a good mood. Perhaps the dominant male is the father of the baby. Or it was his male rival. Scientists have yet to decide what motivates him to such actions. Animals, which rarely resort to violence, sentence the baby to death, declaring themselves the executioner. No death in alliances goes unnoticed. The crocodile caiman is in no hurry. Vultures immediately cease to be midwives, returning to his usual role. The caimans then go ashore to claim their share. The rest will go to the underwater cleanup crew. Piranhas, as always, work their terrible magic at the scene of bloodshed. After a few minutes, only bones remain from the small capybara. Where life expectancy can be measured in minutes. The lucky survivor does not leave his mother. He may no longer need to be afraid of his relatives, but the capybara has many other enemies. It's already well after 12 o'clock in the Venezuelan savannah. Following the receding water, Anaconda looks everywhere for cooler places. The anaconda completely holds the victim, and then when it envelopes him, whoever the victim is, he is finished. Anacondas can hunt and kill prey as large as humans. And very often giant snakes were blamed for the disappearances of people in Alienos. Although not a single accusation was confirmed. Anacondas were often chased. And they attacked them. At dusk the water cutters finished their feast. The sunset rays herald that rush hour has arrived in the alliances. Birds fly home to spend the night. And their number makes the sky even darker. In the shallow waters of the river, a resting jaguar is pestered by flies all day long. Soon he will have to go and get his own food. Morning finds an anaconda seeking shelter from the rising sun. The dry river bed reveals numerous cavities in the roots, cool and damp places where the snake can wait out the last weeks of the drought. The drought is in full swing, the heat is intensifying, and reptiles living in packs are sunning themselves near disappearing streams. Capybaras hide in the remains of ponds. For Himakim, the capybaras throw a Thanksgiving feast of ticks. Now the flooded plains, lured to them from their native rivers by a school of piranhas, are quickly drying up, and many of them are trapped. Suffocating on the surface, the once ferocious killers are rendered helpless. No one knows exactly why caimans yawn. But perhaps they are grinning in anticipation of future events. Crocodiles and piranhas appear, finally freed from their torments. But a lucky day for these predatory fish will come when it rains again. May is coming to an end. For 6 months now, the Venezuelan savanna has not seen a drop of rain. But the season without food for the fish became a season of plenty for the birds. Dozens landed at the water's edge. They are waiting to join the feast. Each species has its own perfect feeding technique. But nothing can stop the voracious birds from feeding. But it is not the abandoned guest who will soon attract their attention. This is a male anaconda. For mating we look for quiet and calm shallow water. Her appearance seems to evoke curiosity rather than fear. Although anacondas regularly feed on birds. It's as if they know that the snake is attacking from an ambush, and will not waste energy on a victim who sees it approaching. An indignant Orinoco goose announces to the anaconda that it does not belong here. The stilted bird quickly chases her away. The snake retreats, but with the slowness characteristic of anacondas, asserting the primacy of the birds. And soon the snake finds a suitable place and begins to wait for its suitors. The female anaconda probably secretes special chemicals. It is discovered by male snakes who use their tongue as a means of sexual identification. Males are much smaller than females, but at the same time they have such a gigantic stature. Small size is relative. This male appears when the mating festival is already in full swing, but this does not bother him. Several males have already surrounded the female. It may seem that there are no more free lines left in her notebook. But sometimes females can receive the attention of a dozen males. Now the male is trying to understand this phenomenon with the help of a name. A female and several males intertwine into a mating ball. And here's the question, does a female mate with one male or with several? The largest male and the smallest? The one who gets to her first, or the one who tickles her better? The male tickles the female with a special spur, the last remnant of what his lizard ancestors had as a hind leg. After mating, the male leaves the family fork along with the female. But scientists believe the rival male may survive. The main question is one female changing or several. It will be possible to get an answer only if the snake successfully bears offspring. And now everything will go well and the female will bear offspring in the fall. But for now these are just hopes. During the 4 years that scientists have been observing her, she has never given birth. And it has yet to endure its worst drought in years. It's hard to say when the rains will start. The inland sea turned into a collection of puddles. The heat and crowding did not spare the capybaras. Himahima, once a sought-after parasite fighter, has become a tormentor of the weakest capybaras, and he has no strength to fight back. An opportunistic predator growls nearby. In North America it is known as the cougar or mountain lion. Puma finds a lot of easily accessible food in alliances. Anaconda is having a particularly difficult time right now. Being pregnant, she must carefully choose a rookery. Some puddles will dry up soon. And she won't live long if she stays under the sun. Just 7 degrees north of the equator, alliances are evaporating as the summer solstice approaches. Scarlet ibises keep a close eye on their sworn enemy. The puddles have dried up, and now the capybaras are wallowing in the mud, and the catfish are convulsively gasping for air. There is too little water. And now the female is forced to go on an arduous pilgrimage through the mud in search of shelter. But the situation is only getting worse. And the next day the female finds her final refuge. Beneath the dried mud. Here she will wait for rains that are not expected. Some pregnant females lie directly under the sun, where temperatures can rise to 48 degrees. Many of them will not live to see the rains, and their offspring will die with them. This fate awaits many residents of the alliances. The elevated plains are filled with the sounds of a long-awaited thunderstorm coming from over the horizon. Scientists left the flooded mounds to the capybaras, not yet knowing whether the female or any other pregnant anaconda survived. When the rains begin, worried scientists will fly in search of their snakes. We go in search of a female after a drought. I wonder if she's alive. But the female survived, coping with drought and 7 months of starvation. She took a comfortable position to give birth to her cubs. Only then will she be able to eat. Other reptiles will also give birth this season. Baby caimans are being born everywhere. Snub-nosed crocodiles emerge from the eggs. And then they set off. Under mother's supervision. On land they are helpless and vulnerable. Therefore, they do not hesitate to seek salvation in the water, where it is relatively safe. There they gather, and the mother looks after them. A few hours after birth, they hunt their first insects. And at night, the female prepares to introduce her own family to the world. She, unlike caimans and most other snake-like reptiles, is a viviparous animal. She gave birth to 40 babies. They made up 1/3 of her own weight. She also threw out a dozen orange balls. These are not broken eggs. A hungry mother eats several eggs. Yes, they would help her survive until she was ready to hunt again. She will also eat stillborn children. She successfully yanks her head back, mistakenly grabbing a living one. She doesn't care about her children. Now the female's cubs are left to their own devices. In a few minutes, the first child will go to explore alliances. Perhaps half of the anaconda's offspring will survive. And although the nearby rainforests have disappeared, the anaconda is still alive and well. In these flooded nizines. This morning, caimans will enjoy a free breakfast in the shallow waters of the river. These are leftover food and stillborn female anaconda cubs, which they greedily devour. The surviving cubs hide in the hyacinths, where they try their best not to attract attention to themselves. It's time for this little guy to go in search of food for the first time. By the way, a baby anaconda hunts well, but can easily turn from a hunter into prey. Typically, agility, accuracy and camouflage make the anaconda invisible to piranhas. Like a root floating with the current, the cub makes its way through the hyacinth thickets. True, occasionally inexperienced juveniles end up in more permitted waters. The other cub decides to take advantage of the opportunity and hastily retreats. But there are many unpleasant surprises in alliances. Like most cats, ocelots are not very fond of water. But he will interfere with the anaconda's plans for lunch. Before the female's offspring have time to grow up, their numbers will be greatly reduced. These children have a difficult life ahead of them. They have many enemies. And although not all of them will grow to gigantic sizes, everything will be fine. Many great mysteries of these giant snakes still remain unsolved. Dive into the unexplored corners of the South American jungle to find the answer. And it is impossible to predict what they will find now. Friends, don't forget to subscribe.